The following program has been rated S for spoilers, which may or may not be discussed by the hosts of said program. Common sense is suggested. You silly person.
It's time for Movie Sandwich. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this Movie Sandwich episode today, here, now, whenever you're watching. My name is Drew.
My name is Erin.
All right, and Erin's going to tell you a little bit about what we do here on Movie Sandwich.
Well, on Movie Sandwich, we go out into the theater and watch a movie, whatever movie, and we come back and talk about it, and as well as that movie, we each pick a movie that is sort of linked to the main course somehow, be it an actor, theme, numbers, whatever. And then we talk about those movies as well.
Something I found in the dry cleaning.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Seemed like a good idea at the time. Yeah, something like that. And our main feature for this segment, or this episode, I should say, is a little ditty. Actually, it's not little. It did very well, I think, on the opening weekend. Is called Knives Out.
Yes.
Yeah. And I actually saw this on Thanksgiving with my family, which is something we almost never do. People's like, I wanted to go to the movies. Like, okay. So, yeah, let's look at the trailer for Knives Out.
I'm Detective Lieutenant Elliott, and this is Trooper Wagner.
We just want to ask a few questions.
We understand the night of his demise, the family had gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it, by the way?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request that you all stay until the investigation is completed.
What?
Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask.
I'm gonna live till I die.
You think one of his family
Walls.
killed? Is that what you're suggesting?
Then I cry. I'm gonna take the
You all love twisting the knife into one another.
gonna fly. I'll take a chance. Right high. For my numbers up, I'm gonna fill my cup. I'm gonna live.
You know something. Spill it.
I suspect foul play. I have eliminated no suspects.
I'm gonna live. Until
It's a twisted web. We are not finished untangling it, not yet.
What is this?
CSI KFC?
All right. Can I put the knife back now?
Please.
All right.
Just make sure it's real.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems to sink back into the handle like that. I don't know why. So. All right. Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful whodunit, except they tell you who did it, like a good 20 minutes into the movie, and then they retell you who did it, and then they retell you who did it, and then they retell you who did it, but it's entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah. Did they telegraph that a little early? That, I mean,
I'm like, which time?
well, I mean, like, I thought maybe that was more supposed to be more of a red herring than it was. But when you walk into the room and you see that, or when Chris Evans, I should say, walks into the room, you kind of see his demeanor compared to everybody else. It's kind of like, you know, he's acting like he doesn't care and he's probably the killer, but it can't be him.
Yeah. No, it can't be.
That was
guy.
kind of what I was
It
thinking.
can't possibly be Captain America.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Except dogs don't like him. And it's always the guy that dogs don't like.
Right. That is like, what, is that real? No, come on. He's like, that, well, I don't know. I thought the latter half of the movie focused a little too much on him and the cleaning lady. I mean, it was such a good eclectic cast that they had that I kind of wanted to see more of them.
Yes.
Doing
it was
things.
very much. It was a very much character-driven story. Yes, but it was very much focused specifically on the nurse.
Yeah.
And it was her story and her trying to get out of this predicament that she accidentally got herself into, but then actually didn't get herself into. And it's, yeah. I really wish that they had more of everybody else in the cast.
Yeah, because the interplay between like Don Johnson and the Toni Collette character and Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Shannon, and I know I'm probably missing somebody. Oh, the old lady, like, hi. When he's climbing up and down the stairs, she's just there looking out the window and saying, hi, so-and-so. I thought maybe she was the killer.
Manson, you're back.
I'm like, that's got it. She's. I mean, that's a total front. It's got to be her, and it wasn't. I kind of was hoping it was her.
I did as well in the like towards the end when Blanc, James Bond.
Yeah.
When he was like. When he was interviewing her, I just wanted her to be like, yeah, no, I did it. Get out of her wheelchair.
Yeah.
Start walking around, but no. It wasn't anything like that.
It was not meant to be.
No.
But, I don't know. This is just a funny little pocket of the movie, though. It's like, oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah. Seriously, what was up with his accent?
Daniel Craig's accent?
They did call him Colonel Sanders at one point in time because it was very much.
Well, yeah, didn't Chris Evans say it's the CSI KFC?
Yeah, CSI KFC.
Yeah.
Wow. It was very much a Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think of.
Is that what you're doing after Bond?
I don't think of him. It's strange when I think of his performance now. I don't think of chicken. I think of donuts. Because he has this whole thing where I'm almost waiting for him to have like an Office Space moment or a Back to the Future Part 2 moment where he starts drawing donuts on a board. See, you have a donut here and a donut here and this small hole over here where this donut goes here and then there's this donut over here with this donut here and just to do this, like when people are brainstorming and they put all these lines between things on a big dry erase board. I was kind of waiting for him to do that. Or you have like the cliche of the serial killer when you find where they live and they have all these newspaper clippings on the wall with lines in between them.
You wanted him to just go home and have donuts on his wall?
Yeah.
Nice.
Something like that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and this isn't... It's been a long time since you've really... Well, not that I know of anyway, but you really haven't seen a movie with this theme done in a while. Maybe it's because they do it on TV a lot. There's a lot of TV shows now with the same kind of cast, but there's a lot of whodunits on TV where you don't see a lot of that in the movies as much. And they almost comment on it within the movie by when the maid goes home and her family's watching Murder, She Wrote on television. Which is like, that's kind of what it is. Yeah. It's kind of a big Murder, She Wrote episode in a weird way.
Oh, yeah. It's well, whodunits are better suited for television because they're usually done in shorter amounts of time.
Yeah. And also, they're more, or you can do like one big story over like 10 episodes, I suppose. But.
And it's just, I at least think that it's easier to tell that kind of story over a very large audience all at once. So like on a television show, a lot of people are going to be watching it. TV, you get, not TV, movies, you get the people in and then they automatically talk about it. So it's hard to keep a secret.
Right.
But if you're doing a TV show, most everybody will have seen it already. And they know better than to talk about it. Movies, not so much. I've noticed. People like to
Yeah.
spoil movies. Like us at the beginning of this review.
Well, that is very true, but it'd be a boring show if we couldn't talk about the movies.
It's true.
Rating emoji?
I want to give it the smiley face. Let's look at this. The thinking face.
The contemplative smiley face?
I'm thinking.
Smirky, contemplative smirk? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll give it a smile. I mean, I was entertained. Everybody in the movie was really good. I don't think there was one really weak link in the cast. There are a couple of characters I thought maybe didn't really need to be there, like the kid on the phone who's the
Nazi?
the alt Nazi troll or whatever they called him. All right, I think we're on your sandwich pick first for this.
Well, for my movie, I picked Clue. Because of course I did.
Yeah. That's one that jumped into my head as well, but we'll talk more about mine later. But right now, let's look at the trailer for 1985's Clue.
Every person in this room has the perfect motive.
Stand back!
For murder.
What do you mean? Murder.
But only one of these suspects is the murderer. Is it the timid Mr. Green?
Why are you screaming? Because I'm frightened! Of what? Screaming!
Or the militant Colonel Mustard?
If I was the killer, I would kill you next.
Huh?
Said F.
Mrs. White, who helped her husband on his way?
Well, it's a matter of life after death. Now that he's dead, I have a life.
Miss Scarlet, who's helped many men along the way?
Practice makes perfect. Huh.
Professor Plum, who's looking for a way?
I'm looking.
Mrs. Peacock?
I have absolutely no idea what we're doing here, but I am determined to enjoy myself.
Or did the butler do it?
No.
Paramount Pictures invites you to an evening of mystery.
Let us in! Let us in! Let us out! Let us out!
Murder.
This is getting quite serious.
And madness. In the movie that makes a scene of the crime.
So who did it?
Clue. It's not just a game anymore.
Okay. Yeah. I should have almost brought the board game as a prop today.
Oh, man.
I don't have it in my... if I did, I'd have to dig it out of my mom's basement, because I know I have it somewhere, because I've had that game forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We always played Clue Junior.
And Clue Junior? Yeah. I'm trying to think of when this was made. I mean, man, this movie's like 35 years old already, which doesn't seem possible. But how often, at least at that time, did you see board games that were adapted into film when there's no real backstories on any of the characters? Because board games don't really usually have characters in them, you know, but all those, they were just kind of names and a look. And they had no backstory, whereas here they kind of flushed out people's backstories and what their deal was.
And made them all interconnect somehow.
Yeah, because nowadays when you see, like, you know, I was at the theater the other day and I saw a trailer for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I can't help but think of all the terrible video game adaptations there are.
There have been a few.
Or even other board, like Battleship, you know. But this, especially for an older movie, was quite well done, I gotta say. I remember when this was in theaters, believe it or not. And I remember this, it was different if you watched it on home video because it had 3 different endings. But when this was shown in theaters, you had the option of going to see A, B, or C, because each one had a different ending.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that has been done since.
No, I don't believe it has at all. It really didn't work for them.
Right.
At all. So I think because of that, well, probably not because specifically of Clue, but in general, because it didn't really work, they really have decided not to do that. It's a weird gimmick. It didn't work. Let's move along.
No. But no one else has done that though that I know of.
It's hard to do a gimmick like that in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that comes to mind now is Bandersnatch from Black Mirror on Netflix, because you're able to choose your own path on that.
Yeah, okay.
But otherwise, it's hard to do a multi-ending movie.
Because
like
you think if you watched it at the time, you think you saw the same movie, but when you came out, you could be talking about a completely different ending. So, but yeah, and the cast was, like Knives Out, was quite good in this. Christopher Lloyd was Professor Plum. Oh, and Tim Curry as the butler.
The butler.
I will try not to ruin that for you. And another interesting bit, I think Leslie Ann Warren was Miss Scarlet, but do you know who was supposed to play Miss Scarlet? Carrie Fisher. But at the time, she was having a little problem with some substances, and she had to go to rehab and not be in the movie. So they went with Leslie Ann Warren instead, who was good in the movie.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really
I
good
just
choice.
think about that. It's like, would this movie be a lot different if Carrie Fisher is in this movie? Like, probably not. No. But yeah, she talked about that in her. I checked out her audiobook from the library. It's called Wishful Drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got a picture of her face down with a martini in her hand, and she's got the Princess Leia buns on.
Nice.
So,
But
anyway.
As she should.
As she should, yeah. Yeah, this is, I watched it, and this is, it holds up pretty well. I mean, when you watch older movies, one thing they talk about, things that don't hold up well, usually are either a gag in the film that doesn't stand the test of time, or special effects or things like that. But this really holds up. But yeah, that's Clue. Anything
We didn't
else?
even talk about Clue.
Yeah, well, we did though. I mean,
we talked a little bit about Clue.
It does, but it does a good job of working in the I don't want to say rules, but what would you call them? They're rules of the game. How the game works, like the secret passages between the rooms, and people getting killed with this in this room, like the lead pipe in the study, and it definitely plays on people's previous knowledge of how the game works.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a funny movie too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something you don't necessarily expect from just a mystery in general, because they tend to be kind of serious and bloody, and like people are crying because someone died, and instead it's just lighthearted, and
it's a comedy. It's got a bunch of great comedic actors in it.
Yeah.
It's quotable and things like that. Flames. Side of my face.
Yeah. We sent you a singing telegram, bang, and then they fall over dead.
And counting. You have to learn how to count in this one.
Yes.
1 to 2 to 2 to 1. I don't even remember
1
what
plus
the number
2, 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1.
Plus 1
Something
plus
like
2
that.
Plus 1 plus...
Yeah. Well, you get what we mean.
You get it.
All right.
Just watch the movie. It's great.
Yeah. All right. I guess it's my turn now.
Your turn.
I also picked a mystery of sorts, but it was an outer space mystery. And Christopher Plummer is also in the film. It is Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
I'm very excited to watch another Star Trek movie.
Yeah. I'll talk more about that in a second. But let's look at a trailer for Star Trek VI.
For 1/4 of a century, they have thrilled us with their adventures, amazed us with their discoveries, and inspired us with their courage. Their ship has journeyed beyond imagination. Her name has become legend. Her crew, the finest ever assembled. We have traveled beside them from one corner of the galaxy to the other. They have been our guides, our protectors, and our friends. Now you are invited to join them. for one last adventure. For at the end of history lies the undiscovered country. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Okay. Yeah. I have to address the elephant in the room here.
Where?
Yeah, it's around here because I had suggested this as a sandwich pick. I mean, I had to do it. You know, there's two, after seeing you see why I picked it.
No, I see.
But Erin's like, "Oh, you're picking another Star Trek movie." Well, it's it's hard to not pick it because of those connections, because of what I just mentioned. But I did pick Star Trek 3 before. That was for Avengers. Yeah, because it was the dead coming back to life thing. And and that was 7 months ago. Well, okay. I'll get this out of the way right now, is that there is a Star Wars movie coming up, and there's pretty good chance we're going to review that, and I will go on the record right now and say I'm not picking a Star Trek movie for that.
Well, good.
Okay. I have like 3 or 4 others I've been looking at that for. But, anyway, Star Trek 6. Yeah, this kind of brings it brings an end to the original series cast films. And at the time, I think it was kind of meant to be a metaphor for like because when this was also the same time when like the Berlin Wall was coming down, and
it was very much an allegory. Allegory?
Yeah.
Metaphor.
Allegory, metaphor, whatever you want to call it.
One of those words that is like that.
So we need Chernobyl and those kind of things, and it was quite. I mean, you look at Captain Kirk, and he's always the guy who's kind of done the best to keep the peace and get to the bottom of things, and then it's quite chilling now to hear him say things like, they're animals, let them die. Is like, whoa, you never seen that from him before. But then, of course, you got to remember this is the same people who killed his son too. In Star Trek 3. So there's a little bit of a coda to that.
See, really the only reason I knew that his son had died is because we had watched that movie before.
Yeah. I will talk about Christopher Plummer a little bit. He's not going to be probably remembered for this quite so much, but because he's been in things like Sound of Music and Knives Out and those kind of things. But this is probably just those two, yeah. But he's been in tons of movies. Tons and tons of movies over like the last 50 years or so. But this might be like his best outfit.
Oh, God.
When you have like a patch for your eye and you have no strap, you have like these little bolts that actually bolt it into your head.
Ooh.
I just think that's rad. But,
it's pretty good.
And we have a returning guest in this movie, David Warner, who I had previously talked about on The Omen. He was in The Omen, although his death in this movie, yes, he does die.
Yeah.
Isn't quite as spectacular as his Omen death, with the plane of the sheet of glass taking his head off. But I still want to read more about that head story, about him in the head, because he had that head for a long time, and I guess he lost it in divorce or something.
Oh,
yeah.
sad.
And but yeah, so this is kind of a deeper, dark kind of movie, with Captain Kirk saying these things, or like, are you familiar with the film To Kill a Mockingbird? They had the guy who played what was that character's name? Not Atticus. Atticus Finch was the lawyer, but was it Boo Radley?
Boo Radley, yeah.
The black guy? Yeah, the guy who played him was also in this film, Brock Peters. And then you hear a black guy calling another species the trash of the galaxy. I mean, if you don't know who he is, that's not going to make sense. But if you're familiar with him in that movie, it's like, ooh. Yeah. And but there's also moments of genuine humor too that are good. Like the translation scene where they have to use the books because they don't want the computer does it, they'll know it's fake, and their Klingon is not so good. Like
Which, as a communications officer, you would think that she would have a better grasp of Klingon.
Well, that was the one.
Same with the doctor not knowing the Klingon anatomy.
Yes.
What's up with that?
That is, I wonder that as well. That's one thing I know, and I'm kind of on record for not really liking the J.J. Abrams movies. But that is one thing I think they did do very well with that, with the Uhura character, is that she is much more skilled in how to speak to other cultures in their own language. Or like things like, Spock just casually saying, "I've been dead before." Or only Nixon could go to China. Just little things like that just kind of work. And what's the status of the warp drive? There's nothing wrong with the bloody thing. If we don't fake something, then we'll never see the captain alive again. Could take weeks, sir. just little things like that.
Just little things.
And the character of, or speaking of shocking things, there's also Spock kind of shocks, when he's figures out his, I don't know what we would call her.
Protege?
Intern protege, is in on this conspiracy, and he smacks this thing out of her hand, and that's like, wow, you just never see him do that before. And that part, which oddly enough is played by Miss Sex in the City, Kim Cattrall,
the mannequin herself.
Yeah, that was supposed to be Kirstie Alley originally, because she was
because she was the character, but they...
Well, it was a different character,
but it was supposed to be the character that she had played in 3. 2.
Yeah.
One of those movies.
Yeah. And they wanted her back, but because she was getting way too much money for a little show called Cheers at the time, because that way that would kind of, what it was supposed to kind of resolve her arc in the movies, because you got to know her and then find out she's a traitor.
Yeah.
Type thing. Spoiler. But yeah. And I think the Klingon assassination scene did a lot to sell Pepto-Bismol. Yeah, because they didn't want, well, they're aliens, but there was an issue at the time, I think, because they didn't want it to be red, because then they'd have to change the rating to like 13 or R or something like that. But yeah, that's Star Trek 6.
Star Trek 6?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, was it?
It wasn't bad.
It was pretty good.
It was a good
movie, isn't it? Okay, now I promise I won't
say
pick
that they boldly went.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing, I did like the way they ended the movie with the signatures.
Oh yeah.
That was a neat thing.
It's a good sign off right there.
But now I promise, for at least 6 months, I will not pick another story. It's been 7 since the last one.
I'm holding you to that.
Okay, so that's May.
May.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
All right. Well, anyway.
When the next Star Trek movie's coming out.
Well, there's another one in development. That won't be out for at least a couple years. But anyway, that wraps up this movie sandwich. I am Drew.
I am Erin.
And we'll catch you on the flip side. See you later.
Yeah, I think that cable television is the swellest thing they got.